Greetings and welcome to Mary is the New Evangelization. My name is formerly known as Tomasio Vissmarian. Um, my spiritual name, Tomasio Vissmarian. And tonight we're going to talk about Revelation chapter 12 being fulfilled in our midst. A great sign appeared in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. She was with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth. So Revelation 12, future, but like now, a great sign appeared in the sky, a woman clothed with the sun. Now that's Mary, of course, and clothed with the sun is Guadalupe, but Fatima as well, Medjugorje, all clothed with the sun. A crown of 12 stars on her head. She's the queen of heaven, earth. She is the queen. Now she was with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth. So as a future event, she now becomes the church, okay, laboring to give birth. Now she wailed aloud because Mary is crying out at all these different apparition sites with an urgent message. The message is urgent. That's why she's wailing in pain and labored to give birth. She's laboring. She's dying, basically. She's to give birth. In other words, to transform this world into the kingdom of God. She's laboring to give birth. And so she's laboring, wailing in pain. I mean, it's so important. So she was with child and wailed aloud in pain as she labored to give birth. Then another sign appeared in the sky. It was a huge red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns. On its heads were 7 diadems. So the devil also can do miracles. So he's got this thing going on. He's the rival of God, the rival of Mary. And he's got horns and crowns and all this stuff too, okay? So he's not going to be outdone. Well, because he's the king of hell, basically. So its tail swept a third of the stars in the sky and hurled them down to the earth. Okay, so, he's very influential, very powerful. Then the dragon stood before the woman about to give birth to devour her child when she gave birth. So, if this is the church here, Mary through the church, the dragon stood before the woman about to give birth. Okay, the dragon, the evil, anti-Mary, anti-Christ, so the enemy, we're talking about the enemy of the church, really, the enemy of Christ, the enemy of Mary, is ready to devour the child. Well, who's the child? If Mary already had Jesus and this is future, who is this child that is going to be born? Is it the second coming of Christ? Or is it a pope? Is it Pope Francis? Okay. She gave birth to a son, a male child, destined to rule all the nations with an iron rod. Okay, that's destined. He was destined, the child was destined to rule all the nations with an iron rod. So this woman, this godly woman, gave birth to a son destined to rule the nations with an iron rod. Oh, what is an iron rod? I mean, strong, That's got to be the Pope. It's really got to be the Pope. Or It's a reference to her son's second coming. So let's keep reading. She gave birth to a male child destined to rule the nations with an iron rod. Her child was caught up to God and his throne. Her child was caught up to God and his throne. Okay? So he was caught up to God and his throne. The woman herself fled into the desert where she had a place prepared by God, and that there she might be taken care of for 1260 days. So the woman flees into the desert. The child was caught up to God and his throne, and the woman flees to the desert. Okay, so this sets the stage for the war. It says, war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels battled against the dragon. The dragon and its angels fought back, but they did not prevail, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. We know that story. Okay? The huge dragon, the ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world, was thrown down to earth, and his angels were thrown down with it. Okay? This is about the the war that took place in heaven. So why is John putting that right here? I heard a loud voice in heaven say, salvation, power have come, the kingdom of God, the authority of the anointed, for the accuser of our brothers is cast out, who accuses them before God day and night. They conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Love for life did not deter them from death. So who are we talking about here? They conquered him. They conquered the accuser. They conquered him. Who's they? Well, the angels. The angels were the ones. It says they conquered him by the blood of the Lamb. They conquered him by the blood of the Lamb. So this is future. This is a future war. Okay? This is a future war. If they're conquering by the blood of the Lamb, that Lamb was shed with Jesus. By the word of their testimony and love for life did not deter them from death. So apparently the angels risked their lives in this battle. Therefore rejoice, you heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to you, earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great fury. He knows he has but a short time. So this war happens, and woe to you, earth and sea. So, this is basically saying that the dragon, the devil, is still technically in heaven, the heavens, the air. You know what I mean? We don't really see the devil walking around on this earth. So he is, the prince of the power of the air. The demons, they're in the spiritual realm, not the earthly realm. But they're going to get kicked out of even that spiritual realm. Rejoice, you heavens, and you that dwell in them, but woe to you, earth and sea, for the devil has come down to you in great fury. He knows he has but a short time. Okay, so when the devil takes flesh, basically, that's what we got here. The dragon saw that it had been thrown down to earth. It pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of the great eagle, so that she could fly to her place in the desert, where far from the serpent she was taken care of for a year, 2 years, and a half a year. Okay, so he's cast out of heaven and he goes after the woman. He's cast down to the earth. He knows his time is short, so he goes after her. He tries to harm her. That's the first thing he tries to do. Somehow hurt her, harm her, the one who had given birth to the male child. So, you know, he's going after her, but he couldn't touch her. She was protected. She was given 2 wings of the great eagle so that she could fly to her place in the desert where, far from the serpent, she was taken care of for a year, 2 years and a half year. The serpent, however, spewed a torrent of water out of his mouth after the woman to sweep her away with the current. But the earth helped the woman and opened its mouth and swallowed the flood that the dragon spewed out of its mouth. Then the dragon became angry with the woman and went off to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandments and bear witness to Jesus. It took its position on the sand of the sea. Wow, that's just so loaded. That's just so loaded with so much. But I mean, what's clear is this. There's definitely a battle. Okay, and even when the devil's cast out of heaven, he doesn't stop fighting. He's still fighting. He's going after the woman. So he couldn't go after the child. He was cast out of heaven. Now he goes after the woman who is on the earth. So who is the woman on earth? Well, yes, the church, okay, but he's not necessarily going to go after. He went after the woman who gave birth to the child who was destined to rule the nations, an iron rod. So, Mary is the one he's going after because he's trying to discredit her. He's trying to keep people away from her. He's trying to slander her, misrepresent her. He's doing everything he can to keep her from being known. And that's the whole thing. He spewed out of his mouth, tried to drown her, but she was given the wings of an eagle. Okay, she was protected, right? The Mary and the saints basically have kept her, safe in the church as far as, not betraying her like the Protestants did. So he went to wage war against the rest of her offspring, those who keep God's commandment and bear witness to Jesus. So if he can't touch Mary, he's going to touch the rest of her offspring. Okay, so the rest of Mary's offspring here again would be the church. The offspring of the church would be, basically believers. He's going after the believers. He can't stop her. So I would say if you're with Mary, you're protected pretty much. If you're not with her, you don't have that same protection. That doesn't mean that, if you're martyred, you won't go to heaven. But just saying, there's a certain protection you're not under if you're not under Mary. So read Revelation 12. Pray about it. It's powerful. It's now. It's happening. God bless.